the other big discussion that we need to have is like, what is the goal of a fighting game as a product when you release it? Because like there are out there, you know, when you build a fighting game as a game, there are completely different strategies to make it sell than to actually make it retain its player base. Like retaining your player base in a fighting game is a completely different like a business strategy or like challenge as a company and as a dev than actually making new people jump into the game. Like those are completely different things. And the features, game modes, and like whatever thing is on your fighting game to make new people get into the game is not the same thing that you need to retain them. And that's a discussion that I feel not many people have. For example, I've seen a lot of people, to all of you that think like this, okay? I've seen a lot of people that say online like, hey, it doesn't matter if fighting games have like single player content or like online casual game modes, because after some like months after the game release, nobody's gonna engage with that. And like, but why do we need everybody to engage with like these game modes that are more casually oriented after a ton of hours into the game? Like that's not the goal of those features. The goal of the single player, of the casual game modes online, depending on, you know, whoever is engaging with the game, is to make new people jump in. It's not to retain them. Like, to retain people, you need different shit. And like the overall strategy of making new people jump into the game and also retaining them is completely different. You cannot apply the same features on your game for both things, necessarily. Like, it is a different challenge to retain the player base than to attract a new mass of people into a franchise. The goal is making money from base sales, but DLC sales are a lot harder. Retaining players is very difficult, yes. And I think that a big discussion that people maybe also are not having is that, like, when people say gameplay first, right? A lot of people say, like, we need to make gameplay the primary thing and it's the only relevant thing in a fighting game. And it's like, no. There's a lot of other features and content that are very relevant for fighting games as video games to make them better. That are not gameplay, but something that is actually good to retain people. Something that makes people stay in your game for a long time is the gameplay. So like, gameplay is important to retain a more hardcore player base, but gameplay is not necessarily gonna bring new people in. So like, when you make a fighting game as an overall product, you need to fill those gaps, right? You need to fill all these spots to have both a good strategy to have a new player base, but also a good strategy to retain the hardcore audience. So like, okay, we have single player content, we have this casual online game modes, they exist so that new people are gonna jump in. And then our gameplay is interesting enough and engaging so that people are gonna play this shit for a long time. And there you go. There you have a package of a video game as a fighting game that is going to bring new people in, but also retain a significant portion of the player base, right? But I mean probably that where fighting games were the most popular in the arcades, but we're in an era now where fighting games need to be something more, a well-made product. Yes, 100%. Like, the thing that people don't kind of like understand, in my opinion, is that when fighting games were on the arcades in the 90s, there was a lot of novelty to the games. And like, when people play Street Fighter 2 on an arcade, man, and they did a Hadouken, it was like, holy shit, this shit or this thing is the best. But nowadays, who cares if you can do that? Like, nobody feels like an insane amount of dopamine for doing a Hadouken anymore. There has to be more. Like, the games have to do more for you to actually play them, buy them, and then to stay and play them more, right? MK makes a story DLC and brings people back. If each season of SF6 added more story for the Avatar characters, not just new masters and their side quests, that would help bring offline players back. Maybe, yes. A lot of people in the Mortal Kombat space for sure kind of like re-engage with the games because there is more updates to the single player content. But at the same time, like I said earlier, what is the goal of our game? Like, are we trying to bring new people in, or are we trying to retain the more hardcore player base, right? And I feel like MK, for example, a game like MK11 sold like insanely well. And there's a lot of people that love MK11 because it was a very good, like, feature-rich video game. And it had a lot of stuff to do. You didn't even need to play online, and you had a great video game to enjoy, right? And if you were like super casual, the game was insane, man. It was amazing. But like, the gameplay in MK11, a lot of people fucking hate it. A lot of people think that MK11 is dog shit. It's like an awful game. I remember this video, for example, where Diaphone did like a big interview on an event, and he stopped players asking like, hey, let's make a fighting game tier list. And the first person in was Justin Wong. And Justin Wong was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna use my pick to say that MK11 is fucking dog shit. And like, because a lot of people hate the gameplay on MK11. A lot of people think that it's very bad, but the game is good. Like, the game as a video game is very feature rich, a lot of shit to do, and the casuals love it. A lot of people think that MK11 is one of the best Mortal Kombats of all time in the more casual audience because it was a great video game. It was not necessarily the best fighting game of all time or anything, but it was a video game in which it was worth putting your money into. And that's really good for newcomers and for the casual audience, right? But the retention maybe was not the best, and the legacy of the title was also maybe not the best in terms of gameplay, right? But those are different goals. Again, what is our goal? New player pool, like attracting a new player base of casuals, and maybe we are going to transform a small portion of that into hardcore fans, or is our goal retaining the hardcore audience? Because those two things don't get solved by the same strategies. That's why I'm disappointed with DOA 6, no crossplay confirmed, and maybe no rollback as well. I mean, man, again, what is your target? And like, if we release DOA 6 last round, and our goal is to make the legacy players happy, and the game doesn't have crossplay, and it doesn't have rollback, what are we doing? Those are the things that the old heads or like the legacy players care about the most. The features to play online. Can Tekken attract a new audience? The author of the article is skeptical, it seems. I think that Tekken has an opportunity to attract a very big audience because one, it has an insanely good art style. And I've seen a lot of people online that are Marvel fans, not necessarily fighting game fans, that are like, man, this game looks sick, I want to play it. Then the other thing is that even if the game doesn't have the biggest roster in the world, each character is probably going to feel and look unique enough so that people are going to engage, or people are going to like be open to actually connect with the game. And the other thing is that it has single player content announced. There is single player on Tekken. We don't know what it's going to be. Until now, it looks kind of like an anime slash big cinematic, kind of like what Strive had. This kind of like mini movie inside the game. But like, that is still more than nothing. That's more than what 2XKO has. And Marvel is an IP that has a lot of pull. And like, your IP is relevant. Like, for example, is Marvel Tekken actually fulfilling like a niche and a specific demand financially and market-wise? Do we think that people want to play a Marvel fighting game? Yes, of course. Of course, man. Of course that people want to put money into a Marvel fighting game. There's a huge amount of people that want to do that. So like, I'm pretty confident that it's going to fill up a market space that there is an actual demand to buy a Marvel fighting game, even if it's not NBC. You know what I mean? Like, people want to play something like Dragon Ball FighterZ with Marvel characters. Of course they want to do it. Why did 2XKO start this discussion when it has to do different stuff due to it being a free game? But why does it have to do different stuff though? When we say 2XKO can be a game that is only gameplay centered because it's free to play. Where does that idea come from? Like, are fighting games that are free to play supposed to imitate first person shooters? Or like, are fighting games that are free to play supposed to imitate hero shooters? Like, if we get, for example, a new, I don't know, what happens if Street Fighter 7 is free to play? Should it have only gameplay because it's free? And imitate like Apex Legends, Counter-Strike, or Marvel Rivals, Deadlock? Should it do that? Like, free-to-play is a financial business model. Do you want to know why companies push free-to-play games? Because if you get one free-to-play game that is successful, if you get one free-to-play game that is big, it sells or it makes you earn 100 times more money than one that doesn't have constant microtransactions, cosmetics. Like, free-to-play games are the shit for companies. Is the best financial model for video game developers and publishers. Like, paying $70 for a game like right away and then never paying money again is not the best model for companies. The best one is it's free. You play it for 5 years. You get super engaged with a free-to-play game. You spend $300 over the span of whatever time. And some people spend thousands. And one customer becomes 100 people if it was only buying the game up front. So like that's why companies are pushing free-to-play games, and that's why we see free-to-play games that flop over and over, and the company is like, nope, let's try again, because you can push 10 free-to-play games, and if only one does well, is financially enough. Like financially speaking, is the best outcome. So like 2XKO, yeah, it's not the best game, like feature-wise. It doesn't have, there's nothing to do on 2XKO that is not playing online. But why does a funny game that is free-to-play has to be like that? Like, why does a free-to-play funny game need to be a not feature-rich game and only be gameplay-centered because it's free-to-play? Like, why do we assume that argument makes sense? Like, why do we assume that funny games that are free-to-play should imitate the other genres that are free-to-play when, like, most of the time people don't want to engage with funny games because of the gameplay? Like, the gameplay doesn't matter. The gameplay in fighting games doesn't matter at all for new people and for newcomers. It's the less valuable thing.